Hey everyone, this is Nolan and welcome to this video where I'm going to be talking to you a little bit about fasting. I just started day one of what will be a 3-day fast. I'd done this before. I did this a year ago. I had set the intention a year ago. I really wanted to just change my relationship with my body and how I approach things. And I stumbled upon this idea, this concept, this thing called autophagy. Autophagy actually means self-eating, and this is the way that our body recycles cells and cleans up ourself on a cellular level. And it's thought that this process can really help long-term in your life by avoiding things like cancer and other sicknesses that can come at other later stages in your life. So this whole idea of encouraging this recycling program, this thing that's happening to me, it's just struck me as an important thing to consider and to encourage if I could. And so this is where fasting entered the picture, because science has observed that this autophagy process kicks in when you do a fast between 2 and 4 days. And so last year, I decided to start out my year with a 3-day fast. That meant no food, only water. I allowed myself coffee to help keep some energy going in that way. And it was a really positive experience. I was really proud to actually have gotten through it, because as much as I was curious about encouraging, this autophagy process, this also became like a physical challenge. Like, could I actually do that? Could I actually fast and just abstain from food for 3 days? It just sounded like a fun challenge, as odd as that sounds, I'm sure, because for some of you, I'm sure skipping one meal sounds horrible to you. But for me, I liked this idea of, in some way, like looking at myself, observing my relationship to food in this way. And that is why I'm actually coming around to do this again. Last year, I ended up doing this 90-day challenge where I dropped 20 pounds. I got the most fit that I ever have in my entire life. And more than just like the end results and how good I looked or how great I felt, which are all valid, by the way. Like, I'm not saying that those aren't good reasons to do something like that. The whole process just gave me a deeper understanding of myself and how I work. And that was so empowering. And I walked away from that experience just changed, because it's like I knew all these things about myself that I wasn't aware of before. So fast forward to why am I doing it now this year? Well, of course, the autophagy reasons are valid, and I would love to know for certain on a cellular level, I am better after doing this 3-day fast than not. But the real reason that I was drawn to doing it this time around was I just had the very typical holiday season that I'm sure many of you had, where food is a part of every celebration, and celebrations are just everywhere. For us, I mean, you got Thanksgiving, and then we've got one of our kids' birthdays a few weeks after that, and then you've got Christmas, and then New Year's, and then a week after that, we've got another kid's birthday. So once the end of November hits, it just feels like we're planning for some sort of party every week. And as much as I went into the season thinking, I've got this new approach, this new identity, this new mindset around food, I just fell into the typical habitual patterns of showing up and enjoying time and these parties and these spaces with food. And there's nothing wrong with that at all in and of itself. But the end result was, I'm sure how many of you feel, where January comes around and you just feel tired, you feel beat up a little bit, you just feel not your best. For the last couple of weeks, I have been trying to reset in a certain way, where I've just focused on meal planning or just portion control, or essentially just like thinking my way into doing this. And it just hasn't worked. Like, I've had a couple of days where I eat really well, and then something happens, and I find myself stress eating at the end of the night, which is just a classic trope of my life. And these are for real reasons, because not only do we become accustomed to any style of eating, and that feels like our normal baseline, there's also this huge relationship with dopamine that I've understood in the past year, and food, to where food can be just as addictive, and we can be dependent on foods, especially hyper palatable foods, like really processed, salty foods, or satiating fatty foods, or really, sweet sugary treats. Those things give us the same sort of dopamine hit that anything else that we become addicted to does. And so I think what happens to me, honestly, is I reach for food for, like, when I'm tired or when I'm run down. I reach for it for this dopamine hit. And of course, like any addictive behavior, it just makes it worse, right? If I'm tired and worn down and I feel like crap, and I reach for something sweet just to, like, give myself that dopamine hit so I feel up and I feel more energized, ultimately that doesn't lead to a healthier me. And so you end up just kind of like in the same cycle of, like, high, crash, and just away you go into this cycle of ups and downs. And so that's where I have felt that I've been. And like I said, thinking through it and planning through it has not helped. And that's when I thought maybe, like, the fast is the best approach, like, just to change my mindset, like 180. Like, because I experienced this last time and now I'm experiencing it again. This first day was challenging, but I'm able to ride off of a couple things. One, I've done this before, so I know that I can do it. And two, I'm experiencing the same thing I experienced last time. That once my mind has just switched to, like, no, you're not going to eat food for the next 3 days, it's surprising how accepting my entire physiology is of that. I'm cooking food for my family, for the kids, and I am not tempted at all by any of the food. If anything, I'm actually taking in and being more aware and mindful of the other aspects of food that I really enjoy, like the smells and the sound of something cooking, the textures of things, like cutting vegetables. Like, all of these have information and kind of satisfaction in and of their own. I know that might sound crazy, but it's like I'm able to appreciate food from a different perspective. And so I'm doing this video now at the end of the first day. It's about 6 o'clock. I haven't eaten all day. Been leaning on seltzer water to help with the feeling of feeling full. And then other than a coffee this morning and a decaf coffee in the afternoon, that's it. That's all I've been doing. And I am pleasantly surprised because I'm feeling pretty good. And I even had the energy to work out and to go for a walk on the treadmill for 30 minutes. And so I'm feeling really good, and really glad that I decided to do this approach, because I think sometimes when you're stuck in cycles and you are finding yourself in that powerless feeling of feeling like you are subject to the conditions of your life, sometimes a strong move is what's needed to really, like, shift perspective and to change your mindset, and to just give yourself some space. And that's what it feels like right now. Is like I'm able to, like, step back from all the stories that have been going on with what I'm eating or what I'm doing to my body, or how this might be good or bad, or, the mind just goes nonstop whenever we're trying to work on a problem. And it can be really challenging when your body becomes a problem, right? Because we have to live with this body. We have to eat. These are challenging relationships to pick apart. But I'm getting ready to do another 90-day challenge, and I want to step off of everything that I learned last year, and to get stronger and to lose more body fat and to just learn more things about this relationship that I have with my body. One of the interesting things is there is this idea of, like, yo-yo dieting and going back and forth, and there's a lot of stories that our mind tells us and our culture tells us about whether that's good or bad. I found that I can be my worst critic just by experiencing a little bit of that back and forth. Like, why even try again if you're just going to yo-yo back to your old way of doing things? And that's what, like, the mind tells us, and that's, like, what our own self-critic tells us. But the reality is, like, even though I'm heavier now than I was at the start of my last 90-day challenge. I've got skills, I've got understanding and like systems and tools that work for me, that I know work for me, that I didn't have before. And so even though I could be really critical and say how, I'm back to the start, quote unquote, I'm not back to the start. I'm just continuing on the path that I'm going. And the time that I spent before and the goals that I achieved before are all being brought into this next phase. So yeah, so that's what I wanted to share with you and bring to you today. If you're curious about a fast, by all means, reach out and ask me questions. Nothing that I communicate in any of my videos do I think everyone should try. I was a product of trying a lot of products and programs and other people's plans, and those can be a really good starting place. Those can work for some people, and if they work for you, then great. But for me, I've had to like try a lot of things and take little bits of pieces here and there and just ultimately test myself and see what works and what doesn't. And that is the most empowering thing, because at that point, you're not just subject to a plan that either works or doesn't work for you. You are actually working with like knowledge, like real world, physical, experiential knowledge that you can move forward with and empower you into your life. So if this helps, take it. If it doesn't help, don't worry about it and find something else. But this is the first day of my fast, and I just wanted to check in. And I'm planning on doing more videos for each day just to check in how I feel. But right now, I'm a little hungry, but overall, feeling really great. Thanks.